The games ended at sundown, and now it's your turn. You're the doctor of a gladiator school, and while the crowd went home drunk and satisfied, the wounded are coming back to you, carried in on boards leaking onto the floor. The room smells of copper and sweat and the sour tang of fear. A man on the table in front of you has his forearm laid open to the bone, and he's looking at your face to find out whether he's going to live. You have no antibiotics. You have no anesthetic worth the name. You have no idea that germs exist, and these men are worth a fortune, which means their lives are now, very literally, your problem. This is your worst day, and it's going to teach you why being a healer in ancient Rome was its own kind of horror. Understand first why you even have this job, because it's not mercy, it's money. A trained gladiator was a hugely expensive piece of property, and a dead one earned nobody anything. So the schools hired the best doctors they could find to patch their fighters back together and squeeze more performances out of them. It was the ancient equivalent of a team physician for million-dollar athletes, except your patients were enslaved. Your operating theater was a back room, and your tools wouldn't look out of place in a carpenter's bag. The most famous physician of the entire ancient world, Galen, got his start doing exactly this, tending the gladiators of his home city before he ever went to Rome and became a legend. He understood something that made the job both invaluable and grotesque, that these torn open men were a chance to see inside the human body that no respectable doctor otherwise got. He's said to have called their wounds windows into the body. Every gash was a teacher. Every wound was a lesson written in someone else's blood. So here you are, learning your lessons all night long. Let's walk through what's actually on your table. The fresh wounds come first, and they are spectacular in the worst way. Deep sword cuts that gape open with every breath. Stab wounds where you genuinely cannot tell how deep the iron went or what it nicked on the way in. Crushed bones from a shield or a club. Trident punctures, ragged and dirty. Your job right now, tonight, is to stop the bleeding, get a look inside, pull out whatever shouldn't be there, and close it up. You pack wounds, you stitch flesh, you set and splint shattered limbs, and you do all of it on a fully conscious man because the best you can offer for the pain is some wine, maybe the juice of a poppy or a root like mandrake, if the school can afford it, and a couple of strong assistants to hold him down. The screaming is part of the job. You learn to work straight through it because the alternative is to work slower while he bleeds. Look at what you're reaching for too, because your kit would make a modern surgeon flinch. Bronze probes to trace how deep a wound runs, hooks to hold flesh back or lift a vessel, forceps, scalpels, bone levers, and drills. There's even a clever tool designed to extract a barbed missile head, a spoon-like device you work down the wound channel to cup the barbs so the point can be drawn back out without ripping a second wound on the way. And when bleeding simply won't stop, there's the iron, heated in the brazier until it glows, pressed to raw flesh to sear a vessel shut. The smell of burning skin in a closed room is something that never quite leaves you. Your instruments are beautiful, precise, and terrifying. And the man on the table can see every one of them before you begin. And as you work, you're fighting an enemy you can't even see and don't know is there. Here's the quiet terror underneath everything you do. You have no concept of infection as we understand it. You don't know that the dirt on the blade, the grime on your own hands, the unwashed cloth you're pressing to the wound are all carrying the thing that's most likely to kill your patient. You might rinse a wound with wine because experience has taught you it sometimes helps, without ever knowing why. So you can do a flawless job tonight, close every wound, set every bone, and still lose the man 3 days later when the cut turns hot and red and starts to stink, when the fever climbs and he starts babbling, when the rot moves up the limb faster than you can chase it. That's the cruelty of your craft. Your best work and your worst outcome can look identical for the first 2 days. You won't know which you've got until the wound decides. Take a breath, because the night is long and the table doesn't stay empty. Now think about the man you're not operating on, the one just lying there refusing food, the one whose body you have to keep running between fights. Because your job isn't only the emergencies, it's the daily upkeep of the whole stable of fighters, and that comes down to diet. And the diet might surprise you. These were not men gorging on roasted meat. Studies of actual gladiator remains show they ate mostly plants, heavy on barley and beans, so much so that they had a mocking nickname, the Barley Men. There was a method to it. That starchy, carb-loaded diet packed a layer of fat over their muscle, a built-in cushion that let a blade slice the surface and bleed dramatically for the crowd without cutting straight into anything vital. You're not just keeping them alive. You're managing their bodies like a butcher manages a prized animal, building them a fatty shield so their wounds look worse than they are. There's even evidence they drank a tonic of plant ash, likely to strengthen bones and help them recover from beatings. You are the architect of bodies designed to be hurt and to keep going. So your worst day looks like this. All night, a procession of the freshly maimed. You stitch and pack and set and cauterize by lamplight, your hands slick, men shouting and weeping under your knife. You save who you can. And then the days that follow are their own slow torture, because you sit by the cots and watch which wounds heal clean and which ones turn, knowing there's almost nothing you can do once the fever takes hold, but keep them comfortable and hope. You will lose men you were sure you'd saved. You'll save men you'd written off. And none of it will feel like it was fully in your hands, because the real verdict was always being delivered by something invisible that you didn't even know was in the room. And the worst part? Doing your job perfectly is its own kind of cruelty. Because every man you drag back from the edge, every wound you close, and every bone you knit, you are healing for one purpose only, to send him back out onto the sand to be torn open again. You are not saving lives. You are renewing assets. The better you are at your craft, the more times that enslaved man gets marched back into the arena to bleed for a crowd, until the day a wound finally beats you, or the fever does, and all your careful work is dragged out through the death gate like everyone else's. You are very, very good at keeping people alive just long enough to suffer some more. That's the dark heart of medicine in the Roman world. Some of the greatest leaps in understanding the human body came from rooms exactly like yours, bought with the blood of enslaved men who were patched up only to be wounded again. The knowledge was real. Galen's writings shaped medicine for over 1,000 years. But the price of those windows into the body was paid by people who never got a choice, on tables like the one in front of you, on nights exactly like this one. If you'd have made it through that shift with your nerve intact, stick around, because next time we're going deeper into the operating room of the ancient world, where going under the knife was often a sentence all its own.